right. Hello, everyone. It's Interview Friday. I got a gigantic squirrel behind me. It's one of our squirrel friends. So glad to be here on Lunch Therapy Interview Friday. We got a super guest today, Jim Meskimen. He is one of the world's top impressionists, celebrity impressionists, and also a great actor, great guy. He's going to be coming on pretty soon here. Jim is probably best known for his celebrity impressions, but he has also been seen on Jib Jab. I don't know if anybody watched that. I know they did because it was hugely viral back in the George Bush days, and he was the George Bush voice in Jib Jab. He was the voice of the genie in Aladdin for Disney. He was in The Grinch. Let's see, Jose is here. Happy Massage Squirrel Friday. Yeah. We need to breathe. I definitely need to breathe. I got an announcement about Guignel. Let's ramp this up a little bit. Got some music going. Jim is going to be popping in here pretty soon. I got something to tell you about Guignel. But let's get into the show. Hey, Guy Fly, how is your eye? I'm gonna get myself a modem. 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 Super important part of the show today. We are all going to have to breathe. So I'm going to have to breathe because Jim is not even in the green room yet. He is going to be soon. I did receive a message from him. He'll be here, so nobody worry. Everything's going great, exactly as planned. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. To be fair to Jim, he's not late. I negotiated this with him because he's a very busy guy and he had another gig. And so I negotiated that he would come in just some point during the show. Hopefully soon. All right, in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. And let it go. I've been having a lot of stress lately because I announced that the show is now going to be Tuesdays and Fridays, which seems like a good idea to me, but it's a little stressful for me changing the schedule at all. So it's going to be Tuesdays and Fridays now every week at noon. We're going to be doing the live shows, same as before. I had a nightmare about it last night. I went to go do my show and somebody had moved all my equipment and everything was like, and then I was in this giant warehouse and I couldn't find, and I was live streaming, could not find my live streaming equipment. So there you go, a little bit of anxiety there, just right at the top of the show. Get Mr. Cashman. Yeah, Cashman. We had Pat Cashman on the show. He was great. Breathing becomes even more important. That's right. Especially when you're having weird nightmares. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Jim is here. He's in the green room now. So everybody can just calm down. Let it go. I want to say congratulations to Guignel. We've got a great announcement here. Guignel, who hosts the Cult of the Hummingbird Twitter account, which is at Cult Hummingbird, just reached 1,500 followers on Twitter. And this is like organic. This is organic followers. Just one follower at a time. Mushrooms. All right, in through the nose, out through the toes one more time to celebrate. Hold it. Let it go. And I'm going to bring on the live guest. But first, I'm going to show a little clip so you get an idea of the talent of Jim Meskimen if you don't know already. They think I'm Joel. Keillor says. That's great. All right, let's get on. Interview Friday.
Oh, I have passed a miserable night, so full of fearful dreams, of ugly sights, that as I am a Christian faithful man, right, I would not spend another such night, though tortured by a world of happy days. Methought that I'd broken from the tower, and was embarked across to Burgundy. And in my company my brother Gloucester, who from my cabin tempted me to walk upon the hatches. Thence we looked toward England, and conjured up a thousand heavy times.
This is incredible.
During the wars of York and Lancaster that had befallen us. As we paced along upon the giddy footing of the hatches, methought that Gloucester stumbled, and in falling struck me, who thought to stay him.
Overboard, into the thundering billows of the main.
Lord, methought, what pain it was to drown. What dreadful noise of water in mine ears. What sights of ugly death within mine eyes. Methought I saw 1,000 fearful wrecks, 10,000 men which fishes gnawed upon, wedges of gold, great anchors, heaps of pearl, inestimable stones, unvalued jewels, all scattered in the bottom of the sea. Some lay in dead men's skulls, and in those holes where eyes had once inhabited there were crept, as if in scorn of eyes, reflecting gems, which wooed the slimy bottom of the deep, and mocked the dead bones that lay scattered by.
This is incredible.
Had I such leisure, in the time of death, to gaze upon these secrets of the deep? Methought I had. And often did I try to yield.
It just goes on and on, but I'm going to bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jim Meskimen. God, I hope this works. That's a weird curtain thing. Here he is. Yeah. I was a little stressed out with that curtain thing. I was like, oh, man, I never tried that before. How are you doing, Jim?
I'm doing really well, Joel, really well.
I can't tell you how great it is to see you.
Thanks, man.
I am really happy to have you on the show. Yeah. So, Jim, let's start right from the basics. When you were a little kid and you were in elementary school, did you do impressions of the teacher?
Wilbur Avenue School. I didn't. I didn't. I probably had a feeling of wanting to duplicate them, but I didn't. I was aware that I had little boy pipes, so it was unrewarding. But in junior high, once my voice changed, then I started to experiment a little more.
I was like that. I mean, I still have my voice kind of high, but when I was a kid, I was like this. Hi there. I don't think I could have done a good Mickey Mouse, probably.
You would have been cheating, though. Yeah.
When did you? Yeah, I would have been cheating. When did you start really deciding that this is something that you wanted to do, being an impressionist?
Well, I didn't have any big designs on it. I always, I first wanted to be a visual artist, a painter and an illustrator, and I did work professionally doing that. And I was always a kid that drew pictures and cartoons and things. And then it wasn't until I actually moved to New York City with the express intention of being an actor that I was like examining my skill set to see, well, what can I do that people will pay me for, Yeah. And I had a little bit of an edge in the vocal area. I knew I could work in voiceovers, and some of the first jobs I did were actually sound-alikes, impressions of political figures and movie stars for different promos and other little things on TV. And then that bolstered my confidence, and I began to think, well, that's a direction I can go in. And, for years, I didn't really market myself particularly as an impressionist. I just marketed myself as a young actor and a voice actor. And But in in later years, it turned out to be a good thing to always bust through and attract some attention.
Yeah. What kind of acting training did you have?
Well, I didn't have a lot. I didn't have a lot, which in retrospect was very valuable that I didn't have so much. I knew a lot of kids that, like in college, for example, I never really took any courses in theater.
Yeah.
I did plays.
Yeah.
I auditioned and would get in plays, and that's a great way to learn about
on-the-job
sure
training.
It's on-the-job training, and you learn from the response of the audience, and you learn how to deal with other actors and how to work with the material, and also you have. Usually at college or something, you have like endless amounts of time to rehearse and work on things. And, it's not like the real act world at all. We're like, okay, we're shooting this next week or in a half an hour.
Yeah.
I remember working on a play for 2 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it had some depth to it. But so when I moved to New York City in my 20s, I thought, well, maybe I should probably get some acting training. So I went to the Stella Adler School in New York, on the advice of my mother, actress Marion Ross, who had studied with her for a
So
short
you
time.
had been around acting probably all your young life, since your mom was Mrs. C on Happy Days and various other shows she was on as well. So had you been on the set and stuff when you were a little kid?
Oh yeah, many times. I hung around there as often as I could, and once I could drive, it went on for 11 seasons. So it started when I was 12 or 13 and couldn't really power myself down to Paramount without a grown-up. But once I was 16 and could drive down there, I would go every Friday night and watch them tape. It was really, really fun.
Happy Days was such a part of our upbringing, for me. It's just, I saw every episode. I think there were like 288 episodes, I heard, and your mom was in every single one. She was in every one of them.
Every single one. Yeah. And her part grew from being Howard to having more, depth and stuff, because I learned a lot from her. None the least of which is that, if you want to do something, if you want to be an actor, if you want to have good parts, you got to figure out a way to demonstrate that. And whether that's doing a play in the hiatus season, which she always did, she would always do a play or a movie or something. What I found out later, that she would volunteer in the table reads, the weekly table reads. On a sitcom, they will have a table read, and they'll do it early enough in the process so they have not hired all the other guest stars and the day players that are going to be there. So she volunteered to read those other parts, and she would really sell them. She would really perform them. And then the writers would perk up and go, "Hey, Marion's really funny, and she's got great chops." And so they began to expand on her character just based on what they saw her do with the table read. So they looked very clever.
Wow. Yeah, and she was also, she had a pretty prolific career. She was in like Perry Mason and all these different shows, like all along the way. So part of it was you had sort of an apprenticeship there with your mom, watching this, happen, and then you decided to go to New York. Why would you go to New York instead of stay in L.A., since that's where your mom was and what the career that you knew, what made you go to New York?
I shortcut it a little bit. I went to Spain to study painting, and I worked very hard on realist oil painting career. Not the career so much, but the skills, right? And I had a Spanish mentor who was a guy named Miguel Arguello, who I met in college, and he invited me to come to Spain. And I went a couple of different trips, almost 2 years in all. And I did learn how to paint, and I started to go down that path. And then I discovered that for a 22-year-old guy, being me, I found it was, although I love to paint, I found it was very solitary.
Yeah,
and
it is
a little too lonely for me. So I had an epiphany, and I realized, I should go to New York. I should be an actor. I think that'll be a better choice. And it was a hard-won decision, but that's why I went to New York.
Yeah.
And as I said, I started at the Stella Adler School on the advice of my mother. It turned out to be a terrible mistake. It was for me a dreadful experience.
Oh, really?
And dreadful.
I thought Stella Adler was like, she's like one of the greats, right? Did you study with her, or was somebody around her? Or?
Yeah, no, she was there, and
this is such an interesting
it's
story.
a bit of a
yeah,
it's a bit of a conversation because I have a very strong viewpoint on how the arts should be taught, and it's learned the hard way. You know, I've had some really great teachers, and I've had just a few stinkers.
Yeah.
And the one thing that the stinkers do is that they, there's a kind of a tradition in this country, and hopefully not globally, but a kind of a tradition of, well, I've got an actor in front of me. I want to teach them something. I've got to point out everything they're doing wrong. And I've got to, kind of break them of their bad habits. And I've got to basically boot camp them into being an artist, which is unworkable, uncomfortable, and frankly, bad manners. It's a
basically like
way
strip them down into like nothing until they have nothing, no tools, and then give them tools rather than work with what they have.
Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, a lot of people put up with it, and when you're young and you don't know any better, or even if you're old, you don't know any better. You go, oh, well, okay, you're a master. You know, you've got the fancy name in the building. I guess that's right. But in my experience, I saw it very plainly. I was in a class of 25 people studying, and we were all being taught this way. You would do a scene, and then the teacher would lay into you and point out everything you did wrong. And very viciously, sometimes.
Yeah, that's harsh.
I heard this from a lot of people. And by the time I left, there were only about 7 or 8 people left. And probably they just continued to whittle away at everybody until they stripped out all the people from the class. So I don't know. I have a very strong viewpoint about it because I then went and studied improv at a school where they had the opposite approach. Where they realized, just get the person to do a lot of scenes and make a lot of choices. Try to foster some creativity, validate their choices, and let them perform in front of an audience. Yeah. By golly, I saw people just get better and better and better and better, and they were happy about it. Yeah. And they're unique.
I agree with you on that.
Something to it that was valuable.
I agree with you on that you need to encourage people. Like one of the things in Los Angeles, at least in Hollywood, in being an actor, is 90% of it is confidence. You know what I mean? Like you got to walk in there like you're the guy that does the thing. And so if somebody is constantly berating you or telling you don't know how to do it, that confidence gets whittled down, and that does not help you, regardless of how many acting classes you take. That you have to nurture people, and you have to look at what they are bringing to the table, which I think is such a good point, Jim. Such a good point.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I learned it the hard way, and then my wife, Jim Meskimen, has started an acting school which is devoted to that viewpoint of, okay, let's break down what do actors have to know, and they put it into a whole curriculum, and the actors come in, and now they do it on Zoom, but they will eventually come back to the building and drill emotions, building characters, creating a character, and nobody is allowed to say, oh, that was good, but it wasn't as good as that other one you did, and I thought you might, when you entered the door, I thought you would show a little more. I was kind of disappointed that you didn't. Nobody's allowed to say any of that crap.
Yeah. But what do they do when like an actor's not listening or an actor's not, the kind of basics of acting? They just let them do it.
Get them to do something. Them to do it again. Do something else. Do another one. People know. I mean, and you have to develop judgment about your work. You have to have a judgment yourself without being critical of yourself. You have to kind of go, I like to do this. I want to make this choice. I think this character could be like this. Yeah. And not have someone come along and second guess you. Now, if you're working a professional thing, that's different. If a director says, you're working for me, here's my vision, this is the way I want you to do it, that's different. We're talking about acting training. And training is exactly what you're talking about. You want to build confidence. You want to enable the person as much as possible to start to play and get creative and find things. Like a talent like Gary Oldman or Christian Bale or Meryl Streep is a great example of someone who they know how to find something, and they're going to find something and create something that nobody else would have thought of, and nobody had to break them down to do that. So that's the idea, is finding,
great.
really building on your own resources. The school is called the Acting Center, and it's www.theactingcenterla.com. It's in Sherman Oaks, but now it's on Zoom. And
okay, Acting Center.
I study there. It's wonderful.
That's great. And do you teach there at all?
Nope.
You study.
I'm a student.
Right on.
I study there.
I love it. I love it. ActingCenterLA.com. I'm gonna put that on the screen at some point here.
Safest place if you want to bring kids, if you want to bring beginners. It's a safe place. You know that, because I don't know about you, but if I dropped off a friend or a relative at an acting school, I would worry that they were going to get damaged. Yeah. Maybe irreparably.
Well, also there's the weird, the thing that happens in some of these acting classes where the teacher is becomes this guru, becomes sort of a megalomaniac and takes advantage of the power that they have, and that can really mess up the environment.
Sure, that's what Henry Winkler is lampooning so well on that.
Oh my God, it's so good. Barry, don't you love that? Oh man, I love that.
To go back to the Happy Days theme, there's the Fonz now.
Do you do a Henry Winkler or a Fonz impersonation?
I do. I tell you, I do an actual Henry Winkler. This is how Henry Winkler speaks. He's very careful. He's very validating. And but the Fonz was different. The Fonz was
totally different.
Hey, Cunningham.
That's great. Now you say that when
Henry.
I'm sure you've met him many times, right?
Yeah. I met him. I first met Henry. I remember he was, like I said, I came to the set the first time when we're still a single camera show, and I think I was 12 or 13, maybe 13, and I met Henry and Ron. I met all the guys. Henry seemed to me, he was the eldest of the boys, right? Yeah. And I remember him thinking, wow, this guy's really old. He's 22.
22? Oh my God.
22.
You said something there that I think is interesting. You said it used to be a single camera show.
Yeah, the first, if I remember rightly, the first 3 seasons were single camera. Shot like Malcolm in the Middle, or
it wasn't a multicam set or anything. I remember they were in the parking lot. A lot of it was I guess it was based on American Graffiti, is what I'm guessing.
Well, it's funny, and I'll just go over it very quickly because it's an oft-told tale. But Happy Days spawned American Graffiti, spawned Happy Days in a weird way, because and you read about this in Gary Marshall's book, Wake Me When It's Funny. Yeah. But they did this pilot called Love and the Happy Days, and they screened it on TV, and it didn't sell. So they... and it had a lot of the same cast, but the father was different. It wasn't Tom Bosley; it was another actor, Harold Gould. In any case, they shelved it, and then Ron Howard was being looked at by George Lucas to play the lead in American Graffiti, and George Lucas, I guess, reached out, or the casting people reached out and said, "Do you have any footage of Ron Howard in a kind of a '50s sort of milieu?" And the person said, well, as a matter of fact, we do, and they sent him the Happy Days pilot.
Oh, weird.
Well, that helped him to get the job in American Graffiti. Yeah. American Graffiti became a massive hit, and then Michael Eisner, who was the head of Paramount at that time, said, don't we have a pilot laying somewhere that has Ron Howard in the 50s? Wow. And then they resold it, basically. It had a new life, and then it became a series. So it's really the magic of Ron Howard that created it. But
that's an incredible story.
Fancy thing.
I've heard a lot about, we used to hear things like Fonzie. I think actually Gary Marshall told me this, that Fonzie couldn't wear the leather jacket inside the house unless there was a motorcycle around. So Gary Marshall had him ride the motorcycle right into the living room just so he could wear the leather jacket.
That's funny. Yeah, he had a cloth jacket in the first episode.
Yeah, I remember he had a blue windbreaker or something.
Blue windbreaker, yeah. Very different.
Yeah, I love those stories.
It's wonderful. It's kind of like that whole thing with Happy Days finally landing, becoming a show. It's kind of like when somebody in golf, hits a ball and it's going towards the hole and it kind of loops around and then it goes back in.
It's a great. So, do you do a Ron Howard impersonation?
Yeah, I've done Ron Howard's voice quite a lot for different things. And I did Family Guy, and but I wanted to look at the script first because I didn't want to take the piss out of Ron. You know, I just wanted to get fun. I've worked for Ron as a director. He's directed me in 5 of his films.
Wow!
And so I've gotten a chance to hone my impression of him over the years.
I knew you were in The Grinch. Here's a picture. There you are. That's you, right?
I mean, my pajamas.
Great. I love it. What was that like working on that movie? I mean, that must have been nuts.
Oh, Joel, it was great. It was a great experience. All the films I've worked on were great experiences. They're big budget films, and everyone's going all out. Quality's just through the roof, and you know the intention and the objective is very strong.
Yeah.
That was a 4-month gig for me, so that was pretty rare. I have full makeup every day. And
what was that like? Did you have to go into? Everybody had to go into makeup, so it must have been a crazy army of makeup people.
50 plus makeup people, wig people, costume people. It was an army, and we had a whole sound stage just for makeup. And everyone would arrive at 6 a.m. Well, the actors would arrive at 6 a.m. Makeup people probably at 5. And then get this stuff. It always took 3 hours to get it on.
3 hours.
Half hour to get it off. And Rick Baker, the great Rick Baker, was at the head of that whole thing. And he wrangled all the most talented makeup people in Hollywood, many of whom have gone on to become Oscar winners and have their own careers, and a lot of old timers. And boy, it was a great experience. You could always walk around the set too, because it was not a green screen affair.
Really?
It was practical sets. So all of Whoville was there in a couple of different stages.
Crazy.
Large stages at Universal. You could just walk around and look at all the artwork and the artistry that had gone into it and the care. It was pretty fun.
God, I heard Ron Howard put himself in full Grinch makeup one day because I guess Jim Carrey, he just felt sorry for Jim Carrey and he wanted to kind of...
Yeah, Jim was suffering.
Suffer as well.
A lot.
Was he? I bet.
Jim, it was hard because, the yak hair suit, okay, and then, the teeth, got 2 sets of teeth, and then these full scleral, what they call full scleral eye cap, which cover the white of the eye as well, because he had yellowish white eyes. And what happened was, as I understand it, we were using a type of fake snow that was basically paper pulp that laid around on the ground. People would walk around all day long, and it would release tiny particles into the air, which would get into and in between the eye cap and the actual physical eye of Jim Carrey. And you can imagine it was kind of tortuous. So Ron Howard did. He was like, well, let me give this a try and see what it's like, And I saw him that morning, and I didn't recognize him. I knew he was a little more short-statured, this Grinch, than Jim Carrey. So I assumed it was one of the... I thought it was Pat Banta, who was Jim's stuntman. Yeah. And I thought I was being clever. I said, hey, Pat, can't fool me. And he said, no, it's Ron. So it was Ron.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh, my God. He seems like a great guy.
All day, too. He wore it all day.
All day.
Yeah. I think he took the eye caps out, but he wore it all day.
Wow. All right, I'm going to show a clip. And this is you doing a deep fake. Now, I think this is really interesting because we had John DiDomenico on the show as well. And you and John are really embracing this technology, which I would think, some of us are threatened by it, I think, deep fake technology. And it certainly has its dangers, I guess.
Not from impressionists, but from other bad actors.
For impressionists, it's like the coolest thing because you can actually look like the person. So I'm going to show a clip from this, and then we'll come back.
Okay. All right.
I'm Jim Meskimen, and I wrote a poem about what it feels like to be an impressionist. Is anything more sad and lame, contemptible, beneath disdain, in short, provoking of disgust, than being an impressionist? A third-rate, even fourth-rate skill. The definition of cheap thrill. Like watching farm equipment rust is watching an impressionist. A relic from a distant day that long since should have died away, dishonorably mentioned is the pitiful impressionist.
Weird and slightly
ostentatious, tired debris from old Las Vegas,
whose former fans have long dismissed allegiance to impressionists.
How many opportunities passed up and wasted because he's hell-bound to follow what he must? Pity the poor impressionist.
Doomed to live in abject failure, dogged by his own echolalia.
Better to crumble into dust than wind up an impressionist. His borrowed voices can't deflect a life of well-deserved neglect.
His name's on simply no one's lips. Forgotten, vain impressionist.
That sound. Did anybody moan? That creature with the microphone.
Is last on everybody's list. Forgettable impressionist.
when Peter, at that shiny gate, condemns those souls who imitate.
He will but shake a heavenly fist and curse condemned impressionists.
But till that time, we'll tolerate the good-for-nothing reprobate.
And hide the truth that we're just pissed that we can't be impressionists. Oh.
That's better.
Unbelievable. That is so unbelievable, Jim. I love the way you just, this has been said many times before, but the way you can just transition from one to the other without, and can you tell us something about your process, like how you develop these impersonations and how you get into them?
Sure. Well, it's for me, it's just sort of like playing, it's, I've done it so long, and I've done it always under pressure. So I feel like it's easy for me to go from Robin Williams quickly to go to and embody one character and sort of change the energy like that, and then go slightly drift into someone else. Make a quick change because life changes quickly, and really artistic creation doesn't take any time at all. It just takes a decision.
And decision is quick, it's a fast thing. It's real fast.
So I don't know what to say except that I just study these guys.
Yeah.
I have affinity for certain performers. I want to, I don't mind being them. I watch them. Like it's when we watch a movie with a star that we love, we are that person going through that adventure and having that problem. We have empathy for them. Yeah. And so I just carry it out. And because I drew.
Oh, I lost you. Oh, no. I now lost you. Maybe we lost Jim for a second. He'll be back. He will be back. He's going to, here he comes.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, we're having an internet problem. Luckily, we got that incredible sequence of impressions. I was listening to Jim talk about this, and one of the things that he says is he gets into the point of the view of the character, and that's what I want to ask him about next. Aha.
Okay, sorry.
There you are. You're back.
The internet. I was talking about Sam, who had this technology.
Yeah.
You probably shouldn't say the word technology because then the whole computer shuts down.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's the one that does those deep fakes, and I don't know how to do it myself, but I enjoyed our collaborations very much. We've done a few. We did another. We did several anyway, but that one was very, very popular. I think that the strength of that video is that it builds very slowly. The changes are so minute that at first you think, oh, well, maybe Jim's just doing that with his face. Maybe he's widening his nose. Wait a minute. And then after about the third one, you're like, wait a second.
It's phenomenal. Yeah, it really, it sneaks up on you. The first time I saw this deep fake was with Bill Hader, and he was doing, I think, an impersonation of Tom Cruise or something, and they did that with his face, and you're like, what is going on here? But I love what you do, and I'm a big John Malkovich fan, so the John Malkovich thing is just so spot on.
Right.
It's terrific.
Thank you.
But you do more. You do more. Jim has this incredible YouTube channel. that everybody has to check out and subscribe to. It's very popular. But you're doing all kinds of interesting things on there.
Thank you.
And here's one of them that I wanted to show. It is a battle between De Niro and Picard.
Allow Picard to state the obvious. We Brits have conquered every audience, whether film, the stage, or on TV. We English do it splendidly. You hardly ever find a dud. We simply have it in our blood, whilst actors from the USA, across the pond, how shall I say, as thespians, our Yankee chums, compared with us, are third-rate bums. I'm afraid so. I mean, now hold on, Pat. You may be a sir, but where I come from, that's a slur. You throw around a lot of fancy words. Limey actors got a lot of nerve. I heard you out. And now, methinks, it's time I say you British actors stink. That's right. Well, Bobby, we Brits, I'm not ashamed to say, blow you Americans all away. Even the lowliest in our ranks are better than you at playing Yanks. In the words of our own Simon Cowell, you lot should just throw in the towel and leave the job to us, because at least we know who Shakespeare was. Well, as far as acting Shakespeare goes, you can keep your little girly shows, because us in the States will use some craft. What's the matter? Do I make you laugh? Am I a clown, huh? Am I a farmer? What, you want to try and school me in drama? You want me to show you my Oscar stash? Or better still, my big wads of cash? Oh, please, let's not start swinging members. The fact is, you're just rank pretenders. And as you're quite aware, I trust, the language was named after us. I've had it with all you lousy bastards, you Benedict freaking Cumberbatches. Just stay on your side of the Atlantic, or I'll make you eat, you damned iambic. Just chill, Travis Bickle. I might be old, but if you want some of this, just make it so.
That is so awesome. I can't even tell you. Yay! I usually have applause. Yay! I'm going to be the applause. Yay! That is, so one of the things you were saying while you went away, I kind of vamped a little bit and said that one of the things you say is you get the point of view of the character. Yeah. And that helps you get into it. And that you can do kind of instantly, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thing to be able to take on that point of view of other people. It's very useful in life. You know?
Yeah. And fun. And that's kind of what acting's all about, right?
Taking that's what it's all about. That's its essential nature.
And the other thing is the De Niro that you do has, like you say, he has an upside down mouth.
He does. He has, his mouth is upside down because what? I don't know. It's a dental thing, or maybe I don't know. He's not happy.
He's not happy. Not happy being Robert De Niro. It's true though. It's true. And so so are there physical things also that kind of get you in?
Yeah, but I don't so much rely on the physical things. I don't know. You get in any way you can get in, and sometimes, but it's all so fast for me. I don't know what comes first, to be honest. It all starts with the decision. It's not to just say, well, now I'm calling Firth, and I don't know. Did my eyebrows go up first? I don't know. But,
I love the way you are. You're like the antithesis of being in your head. They say actors are in their head and you can't get them out of their head and all that stuff. You're just like, I'm not going to worry about like the mechanism that's happening. I'm just going to do it. And that's really admirable.
Yeah, I think thank you. Well, I've just learned practically, and most actors that are working actors have developed some sort of practical approach to things, because it can be complicated. It can be made very complicated.
Yeah.
Or it can just be like, okay, well, listen, I'm supposed to play this monster, or I'm supposed to play this farmer or this businessman. What would he like? And go and look at somebody like that and learn from them and kind of observe them, and then just sort of try to be them and see what they would see. And it doesn't have to be this whole thing where you go back in your own past and you find this pain thing and then you must relive it and come up with
You're talking about the method acting. Was Stella Adler? Was she like method acting like that, where you go back and?
I don't know. I don't feel like I really know what method acting is. As I understand it, method acting was created in Russia, and was created in a mental institution to try to get people there, the inmates, to as a therapy. And Stanislavski said, apparently, very pointedly, that American actors did not need this. They were already outside and loose and free and didn't need to introvert the way they did. But some very famous teachers took a version of the method, changed it for their own designs and purposes, and have tried to teach it ever since. But most really successful actors don't really go by that. Now, Daniel Day-Lewis might be an exception. But what he does is he immerses himself in the character. I don't think he's drawing upon past misfortune. I think he becomes that guy and decides to live like that guy for 6 or 8 months. When I met him on
akin
There
to
Will Be Blood.
Oh, you did.
I worked on that film, and I worked with him a couple of days, and I just saw a guy who was being Daniel Plainview, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've worked with Giovanni Ribisi the same way. He will become that person, and
just all the whole time, even when eating lunch.
Whole time. Well, yeah. I mean, he'll kind of just gauge it down a little bit because I'll say this: Giovanni and I were in the movie called The Other Sister. I had a very small part. He was the lead with Juliette Lewis, and he played a mentally challenged young man. There was a great movie by Gary Marshall about a mentally challenged young couple, and it's charming and funny and just brilliantly performed by both Juliette and Giovanni. And Giovanni was, very mentally challenged in the scene. And then, when we were having lunch breaks and stuff, his IQ would go up because, we had to actually talk and stuff.
That's incredible. And Daniel Day-Lewis, did he change it, dial it down a little bit for certain things, or because it's somebody that was on the set with him, I'd love to hear that. Because it's legendary.
I knew very little about the script because we were not tape players. We didn't get copies of the script.
Yeah.
So I had my page or two, and so I didn't really know where Daniel Plainview was going or what he was like or what he'd become. So I felt grateful that I was in an early part of the show where he was not a psychotic, So he was very nice. He was very kind. I remember after some take, we walked in and he went, "Good job, good job."
Wow. What was it like to work with that director?
I've worked with Paul Thomas Anderson twice, and
he's one of my favorites. He's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he's just kind of lets you go. And I worked a day on Magnolia, which was a great, crazy experience.
I love that movie, Magnolia. I love it.
It's a weird movie.
It is a weird one, but sure. I know it's weird. It's my kind of weird.
I'd like to watch it again because I only got one page. I knew nothing about this movie. Right in the beginning, I'm talking in front of a group of people at a banquet hall. We're all forensic investigators, coroners, and it's right in the beginning. It's pitching and setting up that story about the pin diver that winds up in a tree. And how happened,
That's like the beginning of the movie.
The very beginning of the movie. I'm probably in the first 15 seconds of the movie.
It's the weird. I think that's the weirdest part of the movie. I mean, the frogs is one thing, but that beginning part is sort of like, what? Is this the same movie? but yeah.
Yeah. So I just remember. Here's my little Paul Thomas Anderson story. So this shows you. My part in that was to be giving a speech. So they had a room full of extras. They all looked great. Everybody was in 60s attire. They were all smoking. It was a real 60s milieu. And then the camera zooms up from far away. It actually bursts through the banquet door, sees that crowd, spins around. It's on the end of a big crane. The crane goes down the aisle and wound up about here. Next to about 8 inches away from my face.
Whoa!
So it went from about 200 feet away to being right there, and which took some getting used to.
Yeah,
because it was moving fast.
Just coming at your face, And
you
you're
really want to.
What did you need to be? Just relaxed, or
Yeah, I didn't. Well, obviously, not
like
acknowledging
not
that
like
there was
oh
a camera
shit.
towards me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any dialogue, so I made up stuff. I improvised stuff to talk to this group about. And I'm supposed to be wrapping up my speech as the camera comes in. So I came up with a line that I liked, and the audience was supposed to laugh at some remark I'd made.
Yeah.
So I remembered a line that I had heard in an old movie where people are talking in a train, and the train goes into a tunnel. And when they come out of the tunnel, we've missed their whole conversation. But the fellow winds up by saying, "I never did find that shoe."
Yeah.
So I remembered that all my life. So I thought, this is a good line to use for this.
Oh, that's great.
So I said, and we never did find that shoe. And then the camera comes in, right? So
Yeah.
I did that for a better part of 2 hours. I made up some other lines too, but weren't.
There's a
weren't
famous on the Breakfast Club. There's like a famous joke that one of them is telling. I think it's Judd Nelson is telling this joke, but they never finish it, and so there's always speculation of how that joke ends and stuff like that.
How does that joke end?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, just to wrap up the story. So that was whenever that movie. We shot that movie, and the other remarkable thing was that I got to meet Tom Cruise that day because he was shooting some of his, He-Man lecture series. Or
Yeah, I love him in that.
Masculine
So good.
icon was shooting in another room nearby, so I got to meet him.
Yeah.
And but then that was it, and then years go by, and I got an audition for this movie, There Will Be Blood. So I go to Paramount again, and I think, well, it's an audition. They're probably just going to have a casting person, but no, Paul Thomas Anderson's there. And I walk in, and he goes, "And they never did find that shoe."
Oh, that's so great. That's awesome. You made an impression.
Nice.
Impressionist.
But it also speaks to his generosity. I thought that was nice.
Yeah, and also that he's paying attention and remembers, and yeah, he seems like that kind. Obviously, that person is very has a lot of attention to detail too, because his movies are pretty deep. Boogie Nights, all that. Oh, I love that. I love his movies. Okay, now I've got an impromptu game that we're gonna play.
Okay.
And then it's gonna be the end of the show. I want to say thank you very much for being on the show.
That's the reward for winning the game?
Yeah. Yeah, you get to leave. So yeah,
Like
so here we go.
room.
Yeah, it's an escape room. So this is the escape room, and we're going to play it. Here we go. It is called, it's not showing, but it will soon. I promise you.
Void of Space.
There we go. Impression workout with Jim Meskimen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a picture of somebody, and then you're going to do an impression of them. And of course, there are people that you do impressions of.
Okay.
So here we go.
I recognize him.
Oh, yes, okay, so there's the great Robin Williams. What a wonderful guy. I mean, really represented a lot of freedom and imagination, and don't worry about anything. And then, sadly, became, it's Christopher Walken, so thank God he saved me from going into another kind of sad tribute to Robin. Sad that it happened. Who is that? Oh, Robert Downey Jr. This is a very youthful picture of Downey Jr. He seemed to be a little not quite as cut as he is today. Anyway, what a remarkable career he's had. And let's not forget John Malkovich, who, among other things, is a remarkable fashion designer. And not too many people know that, but
He really is.
it's true. And probably wearing a scarf of his own design, I wouldn't be surprised. Ask Morgan Freeman. Do you think Morgan Freeman had any idea that he would become such an iconic voice? I wonder. I really wonder.
Remember him on The Electric Company? I remember you on The Electric Company.
Yeah, sure. You can see him on YouTube. I'm sure he wishes he could gather all those pieces of footage up and destroy them.
Joe Pesci, okay. So Joe Pesci, talking about people that have other careers. Joe Pesci has to be a really good jazz guitar player.
Is he?
And singer. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know
Look
that
him up
about
on
Joe
YouTube,
Pesci.
too.
Wow.
Yeah, no, he's a very, artists are often very multifaceted, they're polymaths. So
Why did you
check
kind
him
of
out.
stop acting, Joe Pesci? What happened? I mean, you recently did The Irishman, but there was a big gap.
I did that. Yeah, big. I got other interests. I'm not just. I don't want to just be in mafia movies all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I played enough psychos.
There's Morgan Freeman again.
Oh, it's me again.
That's your
Mama.
mom. You don't have to do an impression of your mom. How's your mom doing?
Thanks for asking. She's great. I just saw her this morning. She is 92 or 90 effing 2, she says, and she's
That's great.
She's great. She's very happy. She's retired.
Yeah.
She still does sometimes voiceovers and things, but she's not going on sets anymore and just enjoying the hell out of her life. She has a beautiful estate. She lives alone still. So my wife and my daughter and my sister and my brother-in-law, we take turns looking after her and making sure she's doing good.
That's awesome. Send her our love and our appreciation, because she was like a second mom to a lot of people as we were growing up. You know what I mean?
And I don't know if you're aware of this, but she has a book out about her life that's quite inspiring called My Days, Happy and Otherwise.
Okay. And it's out on, where can we get it? Like Amazon?
Yep. Amazon. Yeah.
My Days, Happy and Otherwise.
Yeah, it's a really nice book. They did a really good job with it.
Put that on the screen here. And there we go.
Oh, thank you.
So we're going to have to read that book. I actually ran across Gary Marshall for some period of time, and that it seemed like that whole group was like a family.
Happy Days was a family. It was a big family, people. Yeah. Gary's sister and his other sister and his dad was involved and his kids and everybody. They was all one big happy family.
That really was. And then give me the website again of your wife's acting studio.
It's the Acting Center. The Acting Center LA.com. And you can come on and do classes on Zoom, and it's very, very good drilling, and it prepares you really to be a professional. So it's designed for professional actors of any experience level to take this new approach, and it's totally safe. Nobody's gonna tear you a new one. They're gonna just support you and give you the actual tools that you need, the ones that the big stars used.
Super cool. All right, thanks, Jim, for being on the show, and thanks for just being so willing to do, perform for us, because it's just fantastic. It's an inspiration to see how you are, just facile and not overthinking things, and just being freely creative, which is cool.
Very nice of you. Thank you. I appreciate it, Joel. All right, man.
I'll see you later, man.
Can I make it out of the escape room?
Yeah. I'll let you go. I'm going to go dance.
Get to go back to back to the warm embrace of my family.
Right. Get back to your painting, George Bush. All right. See you later.
Yet another song that shouldn't be attempted on acoustic guitar, and it'll probably be a disaster, but we're gonna have fun.
It's dance break time. Celebrating the amazing Jim Meskimen on Lunch Therapy with some Black Sabbath.
Finish with my woman, 'cause
this is the amazing Adam Pearce.
With my life. People think I'm insane because
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Jim does an impression of Ozzy Osbourne. I didn't ask him. It would be good, I'm sure. If he does it, it's worthwhile. I would never attempt this on the guitar. Adam can do it.
But nothing seems to satisfy. Think I'll lose my mind if I can't find something to pacify. Can you help me? Occupy my brain.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Adam Pearce. Thank you, Jim Meskimen. See you on Tuesday for more Lunch Therapy. So good. Just gonna hang with one
I need
more.
someone to show me the things in life that I can't find. I can't see the things that make true happiness. I must be blind.
Solo. Who knew? Taco Tuesday with no tacos.